Welcome to Behind the Build. I am your host, Jonathan Jacobs, and today I have with me two principals. I have Adolphina Czyrsky.
Hi.
And I have Leanne Tammaro of Design Theory.
Thanks for having me here.
I got their names right. It took me some time, but I was committed to the cause. I'll actually give a little bit of background just to how we met. We met on what was a pretty amazing trip to New York City with Lutron earlier in 2024. And as a result of that, having had a ball together, we talked about this podcast and surprised that there are people listening to it. And talked about the idea of having you on. So here we are. Thank you for taking time out of your day. I know that you are very busy with projects and deliverables. So thanks for joining.
Thanks for having us.
This is an open forum podcast. There's no pre-rehearsal. There are no questions that have been provided in advance. While some of the questions are somewhat similar, it's fluid. And I say all of this because generally everyone's always a little bit on edge when we start. It's like, well, where are we going to go with this? And the beauty is I have no idea.
Sounds good.
So it's like a choose your own adventure book.
Love it.
So I figured I would start off, and I ask everyone this question to start things off. So curiosity for me is always, how did you determine that this was an industry of interior design that you wanted to get into? And I know that there are two of you, so you can choose who wants to answer first. At what stage of your life was it something that really resonated with you?
Well, I'll go first. So I knew it from a very young age that I loved the industry. The difference from now till then was that we didn't have access the same way that people have access now to see design in a global way.
Right.
So we had, trading spaces and TLC shows and that kind of thing. But my parents always encouraged me to explore everything that I liked. So I was in every extracurricular. I was in every sport that I wanted to be in. But they also let me be creative and explore music and art, and really traveled a lot when I was a kid as well. But my parents are professionals. Nobody in my family has any design background. Nobody was in a creative field. Everyone is professional.
Right.
So I didn't really have anyone to look up to. So I didn't know what interior design really looked like as an industry. And to just add to that for some depth, I also grew up in Halifax, Nova Scotia.
Sweet.
So great place.
Yeah.
But isolated, especially in, the 90s. I didn't have access to see what was out there. So I ended up loving design. I would change my room around. I had no taste, it was ugly. It was 90s, but it made me feel like I was doing something and I loved doing it. So when time came to actually go to university, I landed in political science, of all things, and business. And that was just following kind of the footsteps of my family.
Right.
And then I decided that wasn't for me and made the move to Ontario, to Toronto.
And had you finished the degree?
No, I did 1 year.
Okay.
I did 1 year, and my parents said, they'll support it. They'll, help me do whatever I want to do. But I didn't have the opportunity or option to quit. It's like, if we started with something, that's fine. You didn't like it, but you can't quit your whole life. Like, if you want to do this has to be what you want to do.
Right.
And, my parents were very structured people. Dahl knows this about about me. It's translated into my later years. And, my life was always very structured. So to have that kind of pivot and go in a direction of something that was maybe a little less typical or professional was very worrisome to my family.
Right.
But they supported me. And I flew through design school. I loved every single second of it. How
long was the degree?
It was a 3-year degree.
Yeah.
And I finished in 2006. So I've been in the industry now for 18 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of just the story of how I got here, but it wasn't anything that was really a planned path. I didn't know. When I was a kid, I wasn't drawing houses and doing that kind of thing. I just knew inside that I really loved it, and that it was something that I wanted to pursue.
Okay.
Well, it's funny listening to Leanne talk. I realized that I was thinking to myself, how am I going to answer this question? Because I didn't think that there was a background, a very defined background for me to get into this industry. Because when I finished high school and I wanted to go to university, we didn't qualify for OSAP at that time. So in order to make this happen and get myself through school, I had to move out of home at 18 and then, get a job and pay rent and try to make something of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that, so I started, working as a waitress and a bartender in a bar, in a restaurant, making great money. And so looking at being surrounded in that environment, which was really fun, you're 19 and you're partying and you're having the time of your life, you're making crazy money, that helped me buy my first place. But then you kind of look around and you go, I don't know if I want to be a lifer.
Yeah.
And it scared me. It scared me because I was thinking to myself at that time, I'm 19, I'm 20. What am I going to want to be here when I'm 40, when I'm 50? And I didn't see that for myself. And it scared the living daylights out of me. So I'm like, what am I going to do? And then, listening again to how Leanne was speaking, I realized, oh my gosh, yeah, I was the kid who was built, we had Legos. I mean, we were just talking about how, I'm one of 5 and one of my brothers is only a little younger than me, a year and a bit younger than me. Yeah. And so Legos was a big thing. And I would build massive houses out of Lego. And I would be the kid cutting out, yes, I'm dating myself, but like cutting out things out of a Sears catalog that I wanted for my house and making like collages for a house. And my mom made me this beautiful dollhouse and she wallpapered it and she put like really cool. And I guess I just realized that it wasn't even a thought. It's just kind of, I researched a design school because I knew university proper wasn't for me. Yeah. I just didn't enjoy the idea of being, head in a book 12, 14 hours a day and writing reports and essays and all that. But I've always been creative in one way or another, working with different kinds of art mediums. Again, I'm just realizing when I was 12, I worked with my aunt and uncle at their bronze foundry. And that was my first job was working on bronze sculptures and taking them from the maquette stage to the lost wax process to full on into the pouring of bronze. And I guess it's always been.
I just got an education
didn't even realize
what it is to fabricate bronze.
Yeah, there you go. So that was the fun part, and I guess I didn't even have to think about it. It's almost like just naturally went into a direction. But I have to be honest, for the first 10 years of being a designer, my dad thought I was a graphic designer. So that was kind of funny. He didn't really understand what a designer was. He's like, oh yeah, I'm just telling everybody you're a graphic designer.
Yeah,
I think
not they're building websites.
Yeah, I think half of my family still thinks all I do is pick paint colors.
Paint colors, yeah.
Every Thanksgiving dinner. What color do you think I should paint this fall?
Yeah. So anyway, that's
interesting. I mean, 2 completely different paths, right?
Yeah.
Which kind of brings me to when we talked about this before we actually started recording this, and that is that like so many people have different paths to getting into this industry, and I think part of what has been so enjoyable with doing this is talking about how everyone landed here, and it's a hard industry to make it in.
Creative industries tend to be that way.
Hard.
It's hard to put a price on an idea, something that's not tangible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And sell people on it and say, trust me. Right? That's hard.
Look at my face.
It's all in here.
Believe in me.
Yeah. I think something you'll pick up on through getting to know us a little bit better too, and how our practice operates. Adolphina and I are 2 completely different people.
Yeah.
And we think that's a huge benefit for our business because we grew up differently, different provinces, different parts of the world we've traveled to. Our experiences are very different. Our personalities are very different. Things we like are very different. But when we come together and have those influences from both sides, it creates really interesting things.
Right.
and an interesting experience for people, because our clients often say to us, it's so funny to see you two together. Like, they'd never expect the two of us with the way that we explain ourselves about things, or the way that we come up with the design, our specialties. They love to see how those two merge together and create something really interesting.
Because our strengths are so different, it allows us to bring the best of ourselves to the table every time.
Right.
Yeah. And also, I want to say that I think we're lucky because we understand what our strengths and our weaknesses are, and we can back off when we need to and go, okay, that's not my strength. No ego, you take it, or you take it. So that's a big thing too. It's definitely leaving your ego on the table and going, I'm not touching that. That's your strength.
It's a hard thing to be able to do in any business.
Yeah, sure.
Is to accept what you are not necessarily good at.
Yeah, but I try not to think of it as a flaw.
Yeah.
I try to think of it as
It's not,
I can't be good at everything. So, Leanne's great at a lot of different things, and I'm great at a lot of different things. So why would we try to compete and butt heads on something that just let it go,
Also, for the sake of time, we're very busy. So it's nice for us to be able to focus on our path and not double up work. So
sure.
Yeah, it's been a learning process along the way, but her and I are like sisters at this point. So there's always been growing pains in the business. It happens like any relationship, but ultimately we have a great core. Yeah. And we always come back to that and really appreciate each other for everything that each of us brings to the table.
Right.
Aw, that's so nice.
There it is. So, but you didn't come out of school and start working together, right?
No. So I guess we can speak a little bit to how design theory started.
Yeah. Well, and in the past, let's talk about the time between school and start design theory.
Yeah. So mine was a shorter path to design theory. I was 27 when we started design theory.
Okay.
So the years between out of school and design theory were very much invested mostly in one large design firm that we both worked at together. I came out of school with an understanding that I was going to enter into the design world. I was going to work for a few years for somebody, sponge everything I could, network my butt off, and build my little black book, and then go out on my own. I always knew that I didn't want to work for somebody for the rest of my life. How that looked, I didn't know.
Other than clients.
Well, of course. I know, it's so funny. As business owners,
we're all working for them.
We have many bosses.
Yeah.
Each and every individual client.
Go ahead. Sorry,
no,
continue.
that's okay. So that was kind of my path. But to get to where we were today, I worked in one sector of that firm, and Adolphina worked in another one, which helped influence our specialties, bringing them both together for our company.
Right.
So I was more focused in the project management, construction side of the business, and Adolphina was leaning more into the design and custom furnishing side of the business, procurement, all of that kind of thing.
And I think for me, that came with the opportunities of working for several different designers throughout my career, in both in, kind of full-time capacity and contract capacity, which was really nice. It gave me a taste of different firms, different sized firms, and both. I'm going to talk mostly residential because I started off in healthcare design in 97, and then commercial design in 98, and then went into residential completely in 99 and haven't looked back, which I love. It's my passion out of all those. So I think that the offerings that I bring to design theory are more in the background of the work, the projects, where, logistics come in to play, and how things are taken from design to completion, and bringing all those custom furnishings and the palettes and all those pretty items, the finishing
Yeah.
pieces to a job.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's just that though.
No.
The background of design is something that people don't see, right? Everybody sees the final picture. Everybody sees even, some development on Instagram. You'll share some behind the scenes and little things like that, snippets of the project. But Adolphina has this specialty in the back end to build out everything. So what is on the final picture, all the steps that came to that, the logistics, the procurement of everything, the coordination of things, the suppliers that are all involved. That's kind of, the background that she really specializes in.
And that's what you were done. That's what you had done at this other practice, largely.
I did. And you know what? I actually really liked it. It is at that point a lot of, spreadsheets and this and that. But I think that's the part that I quite like, is getting into the finer details of that and, looking at something and go, okay, is this texture going to work, or is this component going to conflict with the wood millwork, or like the intricacies of design? That's the part that I really love getting into. Yeah.
Right.
Understanding how things work.
And to speak to strengths and weaknesses, that's the part of it that I don't particularly care for, because I struggle being behind a desk. Mm-hmm. I like to do a million things, run from site to site, talk to the clients, talk to the contractors, be with the trades. And so that different kind of side of it, it's great that she can do that part. And it's part of why we strategically plan to start together, because I take on that other more front-facing role of site, client relations, lead sales, all that kind of part of the business. Right. So it's a really great half and half split. But again, as I mentioned before, for efficiency of time, if we're both doing those things, it gets complicated.
Right.
And so this is where some partnership firms are different, where they take a project. Project A is Adolphina's project. Project B is Leanne's project. Yeah. And they manage the whole thing from top to bottom. It's their baby. We start off every project working collaboratively to prepare the project, to do the kickoff, to get the general concept together, to plan the schedule, to plan everything that needs to go around it.
Right.
But then we split. So when it's in drafting and construction, it's me. And as it transitions, it's being built out, and perhaps it goes into the decor side of things and logistics to finish the project, then it switches over to Adolphina. So our projects, although we're both working on all of our projects, if it leans construction, I'm the point person. And if it leans decor, Adolphina is the point person. And our clients know that we're both available to them and we'll both present to them, but that they know who to speak to. And we then have a sense of every project that's going on, and not just our own roster of projects. Right.
Okay. First, it's interesting to describe it like this, because I don't know that everyone, I don't know, there's some practices I've spoken to that have it in some ways a similar structure, and there are others that work the way that you describe it. And differentiators. I mean, largely the differentiators are, one, going to be how you approach a process, but two, and I think largely is always based on the people. And so when you have an ability to be able to go out there and speak to people, and they have an opportunity to be able to connect with more than one principal at a practice, you have a stronger chance of being able to, win a project.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Because there's two different personalities. And so generally you're going to connect with one of the two, and then connect with both.
And that happens. And sometimes we're also, in the early stages of the project, and we're feeling out the clients as much as they're feeling us out. And we'll know this one is better for you, or this one's better for me. And even if it does kind of wash over in both sides, sometimes you have to make that call based on personalities.
100%.
Alone.
And you have two of you that are also able to judge whether or not it's the right client.
That's
right. And it can be challenging to do that when you're a sole proprietor.
Yeah.
Right. Or
lucky that way. We have each other to bounce thoughts off.
Yeah.
After every meeting. What do you think?
Yeah.
Did I read that right?
Or somebody's presenting and the other one's watching the reaction of the client, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just this ability to have extra set of eyes on everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So had you been working closely together at this other practice over the time that you'd been there?
No, not at
Really?
all.
Yeah.
Actually, we were in completely different floors even. Like, I think I would see Leanne in passing maybe once a week.
So
Maybe.
how did you come to know each other?
Right.
Okay, so we actually did know each other prior from another friend.
Okay.
I went to design school with this woman,
Yeah.
and actually, I think she took over your role at one of the
Yes.
other small design firms
Yes.
that Adolphina worked at prior to this larger firm.
That's right.
So they kind of cross-trained
Yep.
and brought each other and transitioned.
Yeah.
And so they became friends and then would come to different parties or cottage parties or whatever it would be. And so we connected over a lot of New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. And actually
Love at first drink.
love at first drink. And
If I would have known that, I would have brought some here. We wouldn't be drinking water.
yeah, well, now you know. So we ended up just connecting that way. And at the time, there was another woman working in the firm in the role that I eventually took on. And Adolphina was already in that firm. And she
Right.
recommended me to interview for that job. And I ended up getting it. And there we were. You know, I think I was there for about 3.5 years or so, give or take. I don't really recall the exact dates, but that once I was in there, though, we barely saw each other as
Yeah.
it related to work. We'd still cross paths, obviously, socially, but
Right.
not in the office very much.
Yeah.
And so then walk me through the concept of like going and starting your own practice. Like who pitched the other one? Like how did
Well, I left first.
Okay.
Yes.
I left first. I had just, hit my max at one place.
Hey, your sponge was full.
My sponge was full. And
Time to wring it out.
I love that. I'm going to use that. My sponge was full. And I needed a breather because it was very high intensity in that office. And so I planned to take a few months off. In the interim, while I decided to take some time off, as I had mentioned, I networked like crazy. I had met a mill worker who I stayed in touch with.
Yeah.
And after about 3 weeks of being on my 3-month hiatus, he reached out to me saying that he had a potential client, because after I left, I sent everybody I knew a message saying, here's my contact now. No, all respectfully, but reaching out saying, I don't have that email.
Yeah,
That's right.
I don't have that email anymore. This is how you can reach out to me. I'm not gone forever. I'm just gone for now. And it turned out that project was a 48,000 square foot house in the Bridle Path.
Cool.
And
Big project.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
just a wee.
Just a small little shack.
48,000 square feet. No big deal.
Yeah. So I
Just a
realized
couple houses in one.
quickly that I perhaps didn't have the resources to tackle that myself.
Yeah.
But Adolphina and I had already spoken about this. Like the bugs were already in the ears, but the project kind of moved things quickly because the first meeting that I had with that client, it went really well. And I called her and I said, I think this is like a real deal here.
Yeah.
I think there's an opportunity here. Are you ready? And she was.
It was.
She was.
Same thing as Leanne. I had enough time there, and it was just time to move on.
Mm-hmm.
It was very, very high intensity work there, and not that running your own business isn't, just a different kind of intensity.
Okay, so yeah, you're talking about going out on your own, what is like working for someone else, and the challenges. Yeah, and I agree with you. Like you go and you work at another place. I don't work for myself. I work for someone else, but I love it. And it largely depends on the culture that you have where you were. I worked at a place that was what you described as really, really intense, and thankfully I haven't been there for a long time, and I would never go back to that to what that is.
Yeah.
Then you go out on your own.
Yeah. And when you're there, like when you look at your starting points, you kind of appreciate the challenges that you did have to go through to get to where you are now. So not to say that, even though I was ready to leave that place, we both were, we still took a lot from that place. We still took, what to do, what not to do. There were so many lessons that we were taking back with us.
Mm-hmm.
And when Leanne approached me, it was one of those, like, sometimes you just have these moments where you're like, yep. And you just say yes. Yeah. And you trust that it's going to work. And you figure you're just going to figure it out. And it was a yes.
With a 48,000 square foot house.
Yeah. And the meeting was like the next day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I
No time to
signed gave my resignation. The next morning we were having a client meeting. The people I had never even met.
Wait, can I just ask? I just said that. I'm like, what? So you go home that day. Okay. I don't know if you can even remember this, but you go home that day.
And you go, what did I do?
Yeah. So like, what? When you walked out of the office that day, can you put yourself back in this? Like when you walked out of the office that day,
mm-hmm.
did you just kind of feel like this like weight was gone and a new one was about to?
100%.
Yeah.
You nailed it. That is exactly it. But it was a different feel though too, because you know that this was the right move. You don't know anything else past that, but you're trusting your gut that you've made the right decision.
Right.
And it is so scary because you've given up a really great paying job. You've given up everything. You've given up security. You're getting that paycheck every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You are giving up security and you go, oh my God, I have a mortgage to pay. I have car payments to pay. I all of a sudden got pregnant. Like, what am I doing? Okay, well, let's give it a go.
And see,
how bad
I don't
can it be?
Run in fear. Like I was
Yeah.
never afraid of it. It was thrilling. It was like the most exciting feeling.
Sure.
Knowing that I could finally, stamp something with my name on it. The thrill of a project that size. I mean, to this day, if we got a project that size again, it's a thrill. It's a huge challenge. And it also makes you start to think like, you really have to work your confidence. You have to say, I can do this. I can figure it out. I love
Absolutely.
business and I still do that to this day. Adolphina will attest to this, that I have business ideas out of my mind, but what's the fun in life if you don't explore them and take the ride?
Oh, yeah. No, maybe I came across a bit timid. I've always been one to take risks. It's just so happened that it was so quick and you just have to make it on a fly and you have to like go, well, you trust in yourself. If you don't trust in yourself, you would never make that. You would never take the risk.
That's
right.
Yeah, but it's also the culmination of everything you also just said.
There's a lot weighing on my shoulders.
You're pregnant. That in itself is.
Well, you're giving up mat leave for one.
Yeah.
Oh, well, what are you going to do? You just go with it. You're like, this, we're going to make it work. This is going to work. And it's going to be great. That's it. It's going to work. You make it work.
So you go the next day and the two of you sit down with your client on a 48,000 square foot house to start out. And I can tell you that I've spoken to a lot of people. No one has an opportunity starting out a new practice on anything close to that.
That's why I believe in the power of networking.
Yeah.
It is so exciting though. I mean, that was a really exciting and daunting first day because you go, okay, we've never done this before. We just registered a company. And how are we going to do a 2-year project with just the two of us? Like massive amount of elevations, massive amount of drawings. And you go, well, okay, one foot in front of the other. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's figure it out.
Yeah.
And we did.
One square and linear foot by one square linear foot.
Well, in this client, it was 1 square inch by 1 square inch. Every space needed to be thought through and detailed. Right. And I'm sure you can imagine the level of detail in this house, that size. And it was amazing.
Oh, I do need to say this. So for anyone that is unfamiliar with what the bridle path is, so in Toronto, the bridle path is an area within the city that for a long, long time, and still in many ways today, is one of the most exclusive areas to be able to own property in Canada, potentially in North America. And I would go so far as to say that. I mean, generally the average house value, and you could say house, I would say land value in that area is going to be north of $10 million at a minimum. So there's more or less nothing there you're going to buy less for $10 million. Why am I saying that? I'm saying it because if you can imagine lot sizes there can range from, they could be 100 feet wide, but you could also have something that is acres.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just some level of understanding for those that are unaware of the magnitude of the the cachet of the area, but also of scope of project.
And taking that on as the first.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. And this house is, just to give context, is down the street from Drake's house. So it is a very
Well,
tone
no.
lead.
No. At the time, Drake's house was down the street from your project.
Correct.
Oh, there you go.
Correct.
I love it. Semantics. True. Very true. Drake's future house.
Oh, you're buying a house near a Design Theory house? Wow. Welcome to the street, Drake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Well,
Yeah.
the beauty of that project, though, is that although we were thrown into it, we assembled a team quickly. It was me, Adolphina, a drafts person, and that was it. And there was, 4-day a week, 7:30 a.m. site meetings. We showed up. We hit targets. We did everything that we needed to do to make the clients happy. And that client ultimately became a repeat client because he was also a condo developer. And we worked with him on a 4-story building to do 40,000 square feet of amenity space as well.
Not a 4-story, a 4
building.
Yeah, 4 building
Yeah,
complex. Yeah.
So we did that for him. We did some other apartment buildings and condos that he had to renovate those. So that one project, we were able to give it our all because we weren't bogged down with all kinds of other little renovation projects. That would be typical start projects. We weren't spinning our wheels on those. We were able to just have our head down, completely absorbed in this one project. And, help the clients get it to where they wanted. Therefore, their trust in us and their need for us was strong right from the beginning.
It's a pretty powerful start.
Yeah.
It was fun. It really pushed every ounce of our creativity, every ounce of our resources. It was exciting.
Yeah. I mean,
really exciting.
I kind of liken it to like if you got your license and you're driving and you're doing a great job of driving and you've been driving like a Chevy Aveo for like the last 8 years and you've been just amassing the skills of understanding how to drive. And then all of a sudden you get into like a LaFerrari or a Koenigsegg and you're like, all right, we're not going to go to the track. We're going to do this on the roads, but we're going to put our foot down. Because I say that because as you're going through this, and everyone that's listening, if you're in this industry, this, there are pylons, there are pedestrians, there are parked cars, there are people crossing the street, there's traffic helicopters overhead, there's the sun glare off of the building. Like everything is being thrown at you when you are in a project. And it is hard. It's people's money.
Yeah.
It's different. It's different in this industry in many ways than many other industries because business to business is different, but like a consumer to the business is very, very personal.
And it's people's, most of the time, their biggest investment.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
They've saved for this or they've dreamed of this.
Yeah.
And they're just hoping and praying for a good experience to have fun with it too, and they want to have a smooth process. So I think, sometimes we forget, it's just a client or it's just this or whatever it is. You get so busy that you're just trying to go through the motions, but you always have to remember and think about the client and say, like, this is their bigged thing.
It's one of the reasons why I've grown so fond of this industry and why we've like Walden loved doing this podcast is because you get to talk to people that are in this for the right reasons and not the wrong reasons. And there's a lot of industry that exists where it's potentially like the wrong reasons. And there are people in this industry that are in it for the wrong reasons. But a lot of us are here to try to put our best foot forward from the second that you wake up and you turn your feet out of the bed.
Yeah. And we're all running a business, there is that financial aspect to it too. But, that is, the business is supported by continuing to take care of the clients.
Yeah.
Right. Because we don't pay for marketing. We don't have really any marketing budget at all. We're word of mouth, we're Instagram, and we're people we know, our network.
Yeah.
And so if we're not pleasing all of those 3 aspects, then, financials go to the wayside. So really that's the ultimate, the black book. Now it's a virtual, digital one. But back then, I think I did actually have like a little book of business cards.
Literally, like right up here on my desk. There's my black book.
Yeah. That business card folio.
Yeah,
that's right.
So you move past this project and the others that you described from this individual client. And so what does it look like as you look at the continued kind of evolution and growth of the business? You started out, you said you brought in someone that was a drafts person to help on that project.
On contract, yeah.
Right? So on a go forward basis, do you then start securing other projects of similar scale, or even if they were smaller, did you secure enough work that you had to extend beyond the two of you and start to hire staff? What did it look like?
I would say it took us a while to hire staff. We were trying to be strategic about it because it's always you want to think logically too. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket and then have to have the unfortunate thing of ever having to can somebody because you just don't have enough business. So we tried to work it strategically and say, okay, where are we at in the next 6 months? Where are we at in the next year? And plan accordingly that way. We, went from small little office and we grew again. And, we did hire in, was it one person, 2 people? I can't even keep track. Something.
We always had someone on contract doing AutoCAD and things like that.
Right.
But then we did start with just one person. It was kind of a shared person between us for specifying and, sample gathering, kind of an assistant shared.
Okay.
And then from there, we, again, more projects. We outgrew our space. We moved to another office space, got one more team member, and just sort of never looked back from there. We really did grow organically. We sort of paid attention to how much work was coming in and adjusted ourselves on all fronts, financially, personnel, space, like physical space, all of it. We just try to listen to what our business is telling us.
Right.
And keep growing.
Right. So as it stands now, is it just the two of you, or
no.
Okay, so
no.
So
now we have a few people in the office.
Okay.
So we have full-time AutoCAD.
Yeah.
We have one of the ladies works on my side of the business with specifying, and she's my right hand.
Yeah.
We have another person in the office who's Adolphina's right hand.
Yeah.
And then we have another person who kind of crosses over all of the paths. So we still run a really lean team.
Yeah, so it's four.
It's 5 of us.
5 plus 1. Yeah.
Okay.
5 plus 1 on contract. And then
Right.
when we overload on projects, which happens because, you can never schedule them properly because one stalls and one starts. But we have access to about 3 other AutoCAD drafts people who will do the work for us on a per project basis.
Got it.
But one of them is full-time AutoCAD.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, it's a you say lean team, but it's also a right-sized team based on what you've said of your direct involvement in the business on an ongoing basis.
It's a lean team for the amount of projects that we carry. So,
so let's go there.
We carry usually anywhere from about 20 to 25 residential projects.
Okay.
But over the last couple of years, we've also created a bit of a sister company that does all condo refurbishment of amenities and lobbies and corridors and things like that. We've found an opportunity to get into the niche of that with the experience from that original client of doing the amenities and renovating some of his existing towers, and saw a niche in the business and jumped on it, built it, mostly through the pandemic. And in the pandemic, things were unnerving and you didn't know what residential was going to look like, though we remained extraordinarily busy. On the residential side, strategically, with the business mind of things, we thought this was a little bit more recession proof as well. So why not take advantage of the opportunities that were coming our way and develop something? And it's turned into actually its kind of own thing. Like it's another, dozen projects at a time on top of the residential.
Sounds like a lot.
Yeah, but it's exciting. It's a new niche and it runs on a very tight process. Like there's no other better way to say it other than it's kind of like not clients letting go of after tax dollars, right? It's funds, it's the reserve funds, and they have to make these spends. And with the amount of development in the city, we're renovating buildings that are 7 years old. Right. So there's a lot of opportunity in it. It runs smooth. It's its own thing. It's a little bit different in its presentations and in the way that you work, because you work with the board instead of an individual client. But it's a great other thing to do. And in that, a lot of people who run those businesses, it's very common, very typical design.
Mm-hmm.
And we're able to bring our residential approach into those buildings.
Right.
So we have a different...
Make those areas feel much homier than...
Yeah. And we sell ourselves that way. It sets us apart from the other people who have been doing it for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Strictly in the commercial space.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But we're not afraid of color and pattern and texture. And I think that's what allows us to bring a fresh approach to the condo world, where, typically you would see sort of grays and beiges and very safe palettes and this sort of thing. We don't shy away from that. We show our clients the potential of setting themselves apart from one building to the next, because like Leanne said, the boom is out there. There's a million condo buildings out there, and how do you get the most value for your building and attract people to come into your building and rent or own, etc.? What's going to set you aside from the gray building down the road? It's going to be interesting textures and colors and patterns and a different approach on what you would typically see in a condo building.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that would mean that in total, you're looking at anywhere from 20 res to 25 res, and then the additional, call it 12 projects in condos. So you could at any point be looking at 35 to 37 different projects.
I'd say usually we're landing around like 30, give or take.
Okay.
But again, everybody in design knows this. The projects ebb and flow. So at one point, maybe it's in committee of adjustment phase on one. So that project is quiet. So we have time to start another one. And they really ebb and flow. And it's all about time management and internal management. And again,
and setting client expectations.
100%. A following process and you have to stay on target dates and things like that. And we encourage our staff always, they're working hard to help us hit dates, and they put their all into it as well. They're very invested in us. We're very invested in them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And, the beauty of the two of us is that there's two people.
Yeah, you can divide.
There's two leaders,
Yeah.
right? So when something needs a little more on this side or a little more on that side, then we step in and we help each other out.
We're also not afraid to use and explore new apps, new technology to see what is, and we might go through a few of those iterations, but eventually we land on something that works for us. That's been I wouldn't say a challenge, but there's always growth in that part of things.
Right.
One program could be working incredibly well, and the other one's just, try as you might, it's flopping.
Right.
So you just keep looking for, that end of things, and that's the efficiency.
Yeah, efficiency is an evolution of the
It's
business
huge.
and an evolution as you as professionals and what you can offer the employees that are coming to work, and allowing them to be able to be as you said, efficient as possible, working in a software that works.
And we promote internal growth as much as we can. We're always encouraging our team members, to learn more, to be a part of different events and lunch and learns and things. Like, we try to get them very exposed in the industry and bring ideas back so that a little weight can come off of us and they have a great understanding.
And to know that we appreciate them, like we took them to New York for a trip. We could have gone ourselves, but we want them to be part of that experience. We want them to be able to see the design through our eyes as well. That makes them better team. How do I put it? Like
Unified.
Definitely more unified. And I hope that they feel appreciated as well, because we're very grateful for our team. They are amazing. It took a long time to land.
Different iterations,
where we are.
Hiring to me is one of the most challenging parts of this, and I dislike it.
This topic of hiring is something that I think I might even want to consider just having like an entire roundtable on the hiring process, because I can tell you that I talked to so many individuals in the industry on the design side about how challenging it is to find the right people to bring into your team, because you always want to bring someone in that can fulfill a role that you need, but also fulfill a role that you need to help balance the rest of the team in a certain way.
Well, the internal dynamic of the team. And, we recently hired somebody, and as we're interviewing so many people, you have to, it's a feeling that person will get along immediately with the other people in the office. There's an alignment there. There's an energy there. There's, our office is busy, and maybe they say that it's high intensity. I don't know how we spoke of the firm.
No, I don't think we,
You've got people there that are sponging right now.
Yeah,
no.
They
what
do.
are they saying about us? I think, to sort of tack on to what you were saying is trying to find the person who fits that role.
Yeah.
But also fits a future role that they don't quite have yet.
Yeah.
And it's finding, is that person going to have it to grow with us?
Yes.
Are they going to be able to handle an issue that comes up on their own confidently? And that's, our job as well, is to show them the different possibilities of how would we handle something? And do we think they would be able to tackle that in our absentia?
And can they help you grow the business? That essentially helps them grow. Because that's a big part of this too. It's really hard to get to a phase of business where you feel like you are comfortable to hand over the reins on elements that are very, very much a core to who you are as a business owner.
Yes, it's very challenging. Succession planning is not even a thought in mind, because you don't even know how that could potentially happen.
But
our clients, a lot of them are multiple returns, right?
Yes.
And whether we would reorganize internally and our org chart would look differently, and somebody would be a project manager and client direct, those clients are still wanting to talk to me. They're still wanting to talk to Adolphina.
Yep.
They don't want somebody else. And when we're on their fourth home, they expect us. And there's certain clients that you have to give that to them. So hopefully in the future, it would be nice to be able to hand over some of perhaps the condo refurbishment projects or things like that, where we're a little more removed from direct client. But that takes a lot of trust in people. And we just hope that as we're working through projects, they're sponging from us now and listening and hearing how we talk, how we present, how we explain our design intent, all of those things.
Well, and showing an ambition, right?
Yes.
Like you need to have people that are willing to want to take more on and can also know when to say no to something. Like saying no to something there's two types of people, right? There's those that will kind of begrudgingly say yes to something and then it never gets done. And then there are those that can say, like, I can't take that on right now because you have me doing a lot of other things. Let me get through this. And then I'm willing to take it on.
And then there's a third, the people that begrudgingly say yes and do it anyway, whether they want to or not.
Yeah. I mean, I think that third category, and I could be wrong, but that third category is really, really, really rare.
That's because the owner. It's
generally going to be, it generally has to be the owner, or it's someone that has established themselves well enough with their professional career and their personal life that they've developed a balance in what it can look like, that they can afford to do that. It's a harder thing to do. It is. And it's generally always going to be the owner. It is.
Things have to get done.
Yeah. I mean, I forewent my workout this morning so that I could work on a proposal. Is forewent?
I don't know if that's a word.
I just say you passed on your workout.
No, I'm going to go with it. I'm going with forewent. I forewent it.
Just add that to the dictionary.
It's foregone.
It's foregone. But you had to do what you had to do.
But you had to do it because you had things to do.
That's it.
So beyond the practice, one of the other things I want to talk about, Leanne, was one of the initiatives that you've taken on. Because I think it's amazing. And I say it because I've spoken to, and I continue to speak to, a lot of women in this industry. I'm a big proponent of women in the industry. I openly say it. Maybe I shouldn't, but I say it anyways because I think it's huge. I think this industry has needed it for a long time. And I'm going to, I will get to all of what it is that you do, but I want to mention people because I think it's important to mention other trailblazers that do this. And so that is like a person like Heather Doubledam, who is doing more in a day than I think anyone I've ever met in my entire life.
I listened to her episode. It's unbelievable.
Blows my mind what she does. Makes me feel like I wake up and do nothing. So kudos to you, Heather, if you're still listening to this. So, Heather does that. And there's some other people I'm going to have on soon that are about to take over a practice that was run by two men, and they're about to take it on. I just spoke to someone else who's going to be on, and she's just taken over a practice that was run by two men.
Wow.
And I say this because this is largely has been for many, many, many decades, a male dominated industry. And so it's joyous to know that women are like getting to the point now where they are not only like equaling, but surpassing the male counterpart. And it is fantastic. So with all of my rant now said, I feel like now here I am. I'm like the male dominant. Like, jeez.
Not at all.
But Leanne, please talk about what you are now doing for women.
Okay, so it's in its early stages. We're in the first year. It's a not-for-profit that I co-founded with a friend of mine, Agnes. She had a large recruitment firm that focused on architecture, engineering, and construction.
Okay.
And so her and I have always been kind of co-mentors. We help each other through a lot of stuff. We both have a lot of crazy ideas, and half of them never even go past the conversation, but we love having the conversations.
Yeah, why wine will do that?
Oh, it's amazing. Read with her. That's California caps.
Fair.
So one day we were talking about something about the industry, and she mentioned to me that it's been really driving her crazy that she did a look back at her last year and only 3 hires were women. And there were resumes that came across, there were things that came across, but they kept getting passed over. And so specifically in the construction industry. And so we just got into having a conversation about it. And she says, I can't sit back and not do anything about this. Like, we're wasting our opportunity to get things out there. So we kind of sat it through and talked about it and pondered for a year or so back and forth of how it could look. We ended up engaging a group of really wonderful women to create a board of directors and from all parts of the industry.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm the only one from design, but there's architects, there's project managers, a tradesperson. So it's a really great group of women. And we're basically just trying to create something that is a place for women in construction to have as a resource library. So you had mentioned something before about creating kind of a resource library. This is a similar idea where you can see things about, you know, how to properly present yourself to somebody. What should you be asking for in terms of salaries? How should you advocate for yourself? You know, how do you get yourself in the room with these people? And so it's kind of just building on that. We're going to be hosting some events and just trying to get women together and men to support the initiative as well, because I think everybody wants to see the change.
And what's the name?
It's called Next Gen Women.
Yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty amazing initiative. So to tell me again, sorry, so I might have missed. How old is it now?
We're just in the first year.
First year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. December will be a full year.
Okay.
So we're still building out the resource library. We've hosted a couple of events. We've spoken on a couple of panels. We were on another podcast talking about it. So just trying to organically get the word out.
Yeah.
And reach out to different companies. Some really big names have partnered with us on a couple of different things. And it's been really well received. So we're just looking forward to more things to come. And as it grows, we'll share it more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so we're nearing the end. So there's a few things I do want to talk about, and that is, you know, the human side of this. So we've talked a lot about, I mean, everything we're talking about is human side of things, but I guess personal side of things. So, because this part of what I enjoy so much about this is humanizing people in this. Okay. So you can share as much or as little as you want. The topic basics of this, if you want, so you could talk about, you know, what are some of your hobbies? What do you like to do? Do you like travel? Do you know, are you a foodie? We've already established that wine plays a role in some of these things.
Leaned into that one today. I guess it's Friday, right?
I mean, not yet. It's still early. Although it's 1 o'clock. And you know, if you want to get into anything else beyond that, that's up to you. So again, open it up to either of you, so you can decide who wants to answer first and what that would look like as an answer.
My lifestyle is very much revolved around the business. The foundation.
Yeah.
You know, I spend a lot of time with my partner. He and I are very business oriented. So he has a number of things going on. I have a number of things going on, but we find the greatest amount of time to wine, dine, to travel, to see architecture, to just enjoy life, because we have a really great life.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have an 11-year-old son, and he keeps me busy through all the sporting events I have to go to, which I love. I really, truly love. We try to go on as many holidays as we can. Traveling for me is a huge release and an inspiration every time I go away, even if it's like, looking at a set of stairs that's just like designed just so beautifully, or that little tile pattern in a museum. Like, I just get such joy from decompressing and getting inspiration from the beauty of the world.
I think
There's so much
everyone
out
with
there.
a creative mind just values travel so
100%.
much.
Yeah.
Especially when we're grinding it out week to week and really putting everything into making something successful. It's hard to put that away when you're here, when you're so passionate about the business and you want it to do so well. So that time to be able to, even for one night, go to New York for dinner and then come back, it's just like a breath of fresh air. You just feel invigorated again. Or to go to Europe and walk around and do architectural tours, or go to a gallery. It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
The best.
I hear that.
Yeah.
I need to do it more. I have a snowboard in this office.
I noticed. Yeah.
And I bought it years ago, and I look at it every single day, and it's been used once on powder, and I haven't gone on a snowboard trip in 11 years. And I'm like, this is this winter.
Sounds like it's due time.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, because you talk about it, and how invigorating it is to get away, to reset yourself a little bit, and to see some things that aren't a part of the general mundane same thing you've seen each day.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's an investment in yourself too, which is really important, because it's really, really easy to get caught up in the everyday, and that becomes monotonous, and you may not realize how the joy kind of gets sucked out of you, because you are getting pulled in all these different directions. You have to wear all these different hats that you forget to breathe. So when you can go away on a holiday, it could be like, an all-inclusive and wherever, or it could be the beautiful trip to Morocco.
Yeah.
You're investing in yourself.
Yeah.
And it's that.
One weekend snowboarding.
I will say this: the one thing that I do, and this is, I say this, why is it been? There's a paddle there behind you, and that paddle. Anyone that's been on this podcast has seen it. I go on a canoe trip once a year with a friend of mine. Yeah, and all those pictures are from Algonquin Park. And I will say that you talk about a reset when you go into a place that has no cell phone reception. It's joyous.
Yeah.
That's what I say about Europe, because at least, it's impossible to be away for a week or whatever it is and not do anything for the business, because it is what it is.
Yeah.
But to be on that 7-hour time difference is a real blessing. If you can't shut off completely, it's nice to be in a different time zone.
I will tell you that leading into that trip each year, the level of anxiety I have leading up to it, because it's only 3 days, but it's 3 days where you have nothing. You cannot talk to the world.
Oh, the anxiety of turning the phone back on too. And
oh yeah, we pause. My friend and I both
bing,
pause.
bing, bing,
literally, that's what it is.
No.
I turn it on to call my wife to let her know I'm still alive, right, Wendy? And then like your phone just blows up, and when we go for lunch, I'm like looking at everything. I'm like, this is the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then you think back to those couple of days, and you go, it's all worth it.
Oh, totally.
It's all worth it.
Totally.
Got to work hard to play hard.
Thank you both. Thank you both for taking the time. Thank you both for the candor. Thank you both for sharing the stories. I'm humbled by it. I appreciate it. It's been great getting to know you over the last couple months. There have been some time apart, but also when we get together, it's really enjoyable. So
it really is. We're really happy that we got to meet you in New York. What a fantastic trip, and what a fantastic group of people.
Yeah.
Beautiful personalities. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we really enjoyed this today.
My pleasure.
Thank you.